Some days living in Donegal, I feel like I suffer from sunshine deficiency. Can you imagine a world without light? Perhaps you recall days of old when the power was cut off and all that hunting and fumbling for a candle in some dark cupboard under the stairs. Perhaps we're coming back to those days this winter. Or imagine being a blind person all your life, managing to cope as best you could, but completely dependent on others who could see. One staggering thing about light is that it always banishes darkness. You could perhaps argue that the light shines brightest in the darkest night. So when John introduces Jesus in his gospel as the true light, akin to the blazing sun itself, or when Jesus claims to be the light of the world, what did he mean? What he didn't mean, I believe, is that he was an LED light bulb. He's talking in a deeper spiritual sense. Could it be that we're all living in the shadowy dark spiritually, blissfully unaware, and even used to the dark? There are two quick encounters in John's Gospel, chapter 8 and 9, that help explain what Jesus meant by being light of the world. The first encounter, there's a whole lot of spiritual blindness going on. The self-righteous religious leaders of the day haul a woman caught in adultery before Jesus, setting him a trap, asking him his opinion on whether she should be stoned or not according to the law. In an intriguing encounter, Jesus said nothing at first. He bent down, writing something in the dust with the finger of God. It's as if Jesus was about to make a judicial decision, but instead issues words like a sword driven deep into the hypocritical accusers. Jesus straightened up and said to them, "Let any one of you who is without sin be the first to throw a stone at her." The scene is remarkable. There is this public awkwardness and a deep uncomfortableness that prevailed until one by one all the accusers left. And we're supposed to notice the complete collapse of self-confidence before the presence of Jesus. God's searchlight pierces every heart, including mine and yours. Aren't we all guilty of plainly seeing evil in others and overlooking the same ills in ourselves? And what comes across from this episode is that sin is serious. And Jesus said to the woman, "Where are those that condemned you?" "Well, then they've gone." "Then neither do I," he said. But he said, "Go and leave your life of sin." So it wasn't that Jesus condoned her behaviour or that he was soft on sin. Her sin was exposed with all the rest. But there was nothing more to be said. Curiously and beautifully, the woman felt no need to escape Jesus' presence. She felt accepted. Yet Jesus trusted her to leave her life of sin and change her ways. We see the gentleness of Jesus. We see his mercy and his grace. And Jesus, of course, would go to the cross to rescue all of us from darkness. So the first function of light here is this exposure of the seriousness of sin. The second encounter is Jesus healing a blind man, but more importantly, it's about the dawning of spiritual sight. There is this progression in John chapter 9, as this man came to understand the identity of Jesus. It says that the first time he was asked, the man said they called him Jesus. The second time he said he's a prophet. Verse 33, he said he's from God. Then he said he's the Son of Man, and lastly he said he's the Lord, he's Lord. As one of the commentators said, this progression illustrates that the man's movement from darkness to light, both physically and spiritually. One of my favourite quotes from Bruce Mills says that faith is a journey towards Jesus to the point of commitment to him as Lord. When that happens, sight is born. So the second function of light is this illumination, or the giving of spiritual understanding. Finally, what does it mean to embrace the light of life? Listen to what Jesus actually said right in the middle of in both those two chapters. John 8 verse 12, when Jesus spoke again to the people, he said, "I am the light of the world. Whoever follows me will never walk in darkness, but will have the light of life." Again, even in John chapter 1, John introduces Jesus. It says, "In him, Jesus, was life, and that life was the light of all mankind." One of the questions I think it's worth asking ourselves is, do we have the courage to invite God's uncomfortable searchlight and acknowledge our spiritual blindness? The entrance of the true light shows us up for who we really are, warts and all. Yet at the same time, it comes with this welcoming acceptance from the big heart of God who died in our place. Then the spotlight becomes the radiant source of life, a light of life, and spiritual awakening begins. You see, life as God intended it is He's not meant to be stumbling in the dark, looking for answers, looking for meaning. But it's meant to be a light-filled knowledge of the center of the universe, Jesus Christ, and that changes everything. One of the commentators, Alan, says this: the light of the world is Jesus. He takes the gloom and fills the life with glory, and all is changed when Jesus comes to stay. Isn't it worth exploring if Jesus is more than we previously thought? Could he really dispel all the gloom within us, and could he flood our souls with spiritual sunshine? An encounter with this Jesus might just change everything for us. Wallace says that our human destiny is determined by how each of us react when his light falls upon us. And my encouragement to you is to embrace the light of life as the centre of your life. I'm your host, Matt Tuttleby of Bundoran Bible Reflections. Have a great week.